The Wall Street Journal editorial board calls President Biden's privilege play bogus. An opinion piece argues Joe Biden claims he has executive privilege against anyone finding out just how addled he is. Chip Roy, Republican congressman from Texas, member of the Judiciary Committee, one of those committees that voted to move forward with A.G. Garland's contempt proceedings. So I understand in your committee things were smooth sailing and they went along fine. What was going on at Oversight, Congressman?
Well, Harris, great to be on. I mean, look, I wasn't a part of the thing last night. I've seen the clips you've seen. I talked to some of my colleagues on the floor. I mean, look, things are a little heated around here. We're watching our country getting dismantled by a president who doesn't care about the rule of law, and you're watching a Department of Justice asserting executive privilege where it doesn't belong. They've frankly already waived it. We talked about this in the Judiciary Committee yesterday in a little bit more of a rational setting. But let's remember that it is my Democrat colleagues who in 2019 held Attorney General Barr in contempt for literally redacting things that he was legally obligated to redact. They don't care about the rule of law. They care about protecting Joe Biden from the American people seeing what we've seen. And they don't want us to go down the road in an impeachment inquiry at looking at what the actual mental state is, the demeanor of the president, which we need to be able to hear the audio file in order to make that determination. Because Special Counsel Hur repeatedly asserted in his decision not to charge the president that it was in fact his mental state that said that he prevented him from actually bringing the charges because he didn't think that he could because the president would be too sympathetic. We think that goes to the heart of what the president knew or didn't know, and in an impeachment inquiry, we have the duty to look at it and the right to do it, and we should look at it.
A real quick question. You said they've probably already waived that privilege. Why do you say that?
Well, they already sent us the transcripts. In other words, if they wanted to assert privilege, then they should have done it before they sent the transcripts. Now what we want is effectively the best evidence, right? We've got the transcripts, but because Hur asserted that it was his demeanor and the way that he was forgetting stuff that was the problem, we think we need to hear the file in order to make sure we want to, make the right decision from an impeachment standpoint. And look, here's the thing. If my Democratic colleagues were too concerned about it being politicized, well, then they should have just put a rule in that says we'll allow you to listen to the audio, but you can't release it. You can't, put it out publicly.
That
there are
seems
things
logical.
we could have done. Right. I mean, logic is never the thing that governs around the Capitol Hill, as you saw last night in the Oversight Committee.
Oh, you put it so succinctly, so well. Yeah, that was not logical. Hey, baby girl. I mean, it just got weird. Anyway, it could have been a massive national security breach, but little explanation from the Biden administration on two Jordanian nationals in America illegally trying to enter the Marine Corps base at Quantico. It happened earlier this month. And according to a spokesman for the base, those two illegals drove up to a gate in a box truck and said they were making a delivery to a post office. They ignored the direction of military officers to stop and were then arrested. The Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, the director for them, it confirmed to Fox that they are both in custody now and going through removal proceedings. The Pentagon and the White House not giving us much.
I am aware of those reports. I just don't have more information for you. I believe the Marine Corps might have more, so I'd have to refer you to them to speak to that.
So going to be really mindful, these two Jordanians that you're speaking of remain in ICE custody, and given that it is an active law enforcement matter, so I would have to refer you to ICE. I just can't dive into this because, again, there's a law enforcement, this is a law enforcement matter.
So, Congressman, I just want to get this straight. Did it really take that long to tell the American public? I'm curious about that. And is this the kind of response that you would expect for something that potentially we got lucky? Yeah. That these guys weren't doing something more nefarious and didn't get caught doing it?
No, this is right. I mean, this is not the response that we should get. Unfortunately, to answer your question, it is what I would expect out of this administration. Here we have reporting coming from Todd Bensman, who's a good friend, and he's in Austin with CIS. And that was all built upon the work of a local reporter, a local, community reporter who kind of started chasing this story. And now that it's public, and the administration is now having to acknowledge this seemingly did in fact happen. So we have these Jordanians who, are going into a military base, and they're trying to lie fly in order to get on the base. So what's going on there? But what's really going on, the administration doesn't want the American people to know. Bill Malugin, who obviously does great reporting for Fox, Bill yesterday tried to do a Freedom of Information Act request to say, hey, what are the nationalities of all the people that have come from terrorist sponsor state countries? And the administration said, we can't do that. We can't give you that information. I've sent a letter to them asking for information on nationalities, and they said, oh, we'll come brief you. We'll do it, in skip. They haven't done that yet. We're pushing on them again. We're sending a letter
Why
today
not? Why won't they
demanding
do
that
it?
information. They say that somehow it's going to reveal personal information that would endanger people or somehow create national security problem. That's bogus. What they really don't want is mud on their face, because we now have a significant knowledge of people coming from all over the world. While we know 27,500 Chinese nationals have come in the first 6 months of this year, and that is endangering our country.
I want to support what you're saying on the screen now. I'm going to ask my team to put up what Customs and Border Protection's latest numbers show. The number of suspected terrorists crossing illegally has spiked by more than 2,500% from the Trump to Biden administrations. 14 people under Trump. Excuse me, let's go back to that. I really want to look at that screen, because to see the difference between their leadership is worth it. Look at that. I mean, Congressman, 14 to 367 suspected terrorists at the southern border. That is an explosion of danger.
And it's an explosion in danger of that category that you just described that I was talking about, as well as the Chinese nationals. That's gone from a few hundred to 27,000. We only had 23,000 all of last year. The word is out around the world. If you are dangerous, if you're from a dangerous country, come to America. The Biden administration will let you in. And guess what? When they parole dangerous people in, like they did this last year, Laken Riley gets killed. We have a situation where in Kinney County, Texas, in 2021, there were 150 crimes reported. Last year, 6,700 crimes reported. Our counties are dealing with it. Our people are dealing with it. We need to change this policy, which means we've got to get the elections this November and elect President Trump and elect Republicans in the House and the Senate. But I'm really frustrated at my Republican colleagues for not using the power of the purse to force this administration to stop endangering the people. We've got to assert Congress's power again instead of letting the president roll over the Constitution and the security of the American people.
Well, look, I've heard you express it with me time and time again. And you were kind of pushing and leading from behind, if you will, on trying to get them to do more, even in your own party. I want to just hit this quickly. So you mentioned the FOIA and trying to get cooperation on that. So Fox News has independently obtained new data on the number of gotaways sneaking into our nation.
Right.
Since 2010, 3 million. There were 1.6 million from 2021 to 2023. That's more than the 1.4 million in the entire decade between 2010 and 2020. One thing is not like the other. One thing was prior to Biden being president, and another lane of exploding numbers was after and during Biden being president, after his election and now. What is the difference that is putting us in this position?
Well, there's no question, Harrison. Thank you. I mean, you've been intrepid in making sure this information is available to the American people. Bill Malugin has done a fantastic job. We're going to press this information about the nationalities. But the gotaways is one of the key issues, because gotaways are the people who aren't seeking Border Patrol because they know they'll be released into the United States anyway. They're actually absconding and going around Border Patrol. These are the gotaways because they might be up to something. That's the actual issue. These are more dangerous people. These are people that we have concerns about. And that number has been spiking and skyrocketing.
Yes.
Why? Because the Biden administration has been abusing our laws with parole and asylum to release people into the United States, having Border Patrol process these people. No longer are they actually out on the lines policing our borders between the ports of entry. So now you can have untold numbers of gotaways pouring into the United States. Thus, the people in Kinney County have 6,700 crimes last year compared to 150 in 2021. It's night and day. The Biden administration is endangering us. We got to change the policies.